This summer, Instacart presents famous summer flavors coming to your front door. Or pool. Or hotel.
Your grocery delivery has arrived, sir.
That was faster than room service.
No violins in the lobby.
Oh, seriously? Anyway, sit back, relax, and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Starring your favorite snacks, drinks, and more. Download Instacart for free delivery on your first 3 orders. Rated H for hungry audiences. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum $10 per order. Excludes restaurants. Additional terms and fees apply.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, their songwriting techniques, and occasionally getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. Welcome to episode 153. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is Northlane. The Australian metalcore legends are releasing their 6th studio record this week, which is entitled Obsidian. In today's episode, we're speaking with frontman Marcus Bridge about the band's foray into new sonic territories, self-producing this record, and why it's difficult to separate the art from an artist's actions. Here we go. Our guest today is the frontman for one of Australia's most loved metalcore bands. Having been together for over 13 years and winning multiple ARIA awards, they're gearing up to release their 6th studio record this Friday, which is entitled Obsidian. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Marcus Bridge from Northlane. Marcus, hello, how are we?
Hey Simon, doing well? Doing very well.
That's good to hear. Once again, I know we were just chatting before we recorded, but I do very much appreciate your time today. Where are you joining us from?
I'm currently in Melbourne from my home, just enjoying a sunny day out here, which is really nice. It's been a bit cold the last couple of days, so good to have some sun. I
find April in Melbourne, sometimes I used to, a number of years ago, live in Melbourne for a little bit, and April was always somewhat hit and miss, that it could have some nice summery or autumn weather, and then I sometimes would already kind of hit the winter a little bit early. So I'm glad to hear it's a nice warm day.
Absolutely. Compared to like Sydney as well, I guess, with New South Wales with the flooding and stuff, is definitely nothing to complain about with the last couple of days.
Yeah, that's very, very fair. It is a very exciting week at the moment for you, Marcus. It is release week for Northlane with the new album, Obsidian. Congratulations, man. Firstly, this album is fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting. Long time coming. I guess it's been done for about a year now. And had to push it back and stuff. So it's just exciting for it to be finally coming out.
Yeah, of course. Do you guys have, when it does come to release week, do you have any kind of traditions or, things that you guys do as like as a band, as almost like a tribal thing, if you will, each release?
Yeah, not particularly. I mean, we've got, I guess our own things we'll do, but I'm sure, I guess this time around, actually, we've got the Patreon with the Northlane World Eaters, which will probably do some kind of listening party or something like that along with those guys. So, but nothing, we don't really have any traditions or anything like that. The only thing we really do before a show is like bump knuckles, and that's the only real tradition we have. So yeah, besides that, we just kind of sit there twiddling our fingers and waiting to see what people think.
It looks, fist bump is still, I think, an act of camaraderie and still of brotherhood. So I'll take that. Yeah. This new album does kind of, I feel like, once again build upon the sonics of Northlane, and it does, I guess, once again push that envelope of the genres in which you guys are finding yourself in. It's still very much a metal record. You're still very much a metal band. That hasn't changed. But I feel like this, if previously you were kind of flirting with the idea of electronica or anything like that, this this time round, it's more than flirting. You've definitely got the hots this time round, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think with Alien, we were starting to dip our toe in that particular water, and I mean, just to have the reception we had from fans to that sound and to that kind of development in what Northlane is, it kind of just gave us permission to go even further with it and kind of not have any restrictions when it comes to that. And if a song kind of felt like it needed or warranted an electronic kind of element to it, then there was no real fear in going like completely in that direction. And it's exciting because I mean it's like difficult and it's like a challenge to try and make these new sounds work and try to find something that translates to like fans of heavy music and to maybe a new fan base or people who kind of have this crossover interest in our music. So it's really exciting to be diving deeper into that. And I think John, who is our guitarist and kind of is the mastermind behind all of that stuff, he worked really hard on all of those elements. And I'm really proud of what we've been able to achieve as a band kind of with that new sound or that further developed sound.
Yeah, of course. With something like that, is it, I guess, track by track? I know you kind of answered it or kind of touched on it then, but would you guys sit down at the start of each record? And I guess with this one, was there a discussion of we're really going to kind of push the envelope this time? Or was it just that, as you mentioned, track by track, if it felt warranted or that it could kind of work, that you'd then apply it and go by it that way?
Yeah, well, I think John, when he's working on music, it's not necessarily always with Northlane in mind. I mean, a lot of the time he's just working on just trying to create new sounds and just create things that he likes and maybe work towards his own kind of electronic release. But with that being said, then he might hear something in something he's working on and be like, oh, okay, that feels like we could maybe then translate that into a riff, or that kind of atmosphere could work really well with like this guitar instead of a synth. Or, I mean, there's no real rules to how it kind of comes about. I think it was more that's just the kind of sound and music that John is interested in and wanted to implement into our sound. And kind of just felt free to do that. And I think, with John, he's just got a really unique way of making those elements still work with what's made Northlane sound what it is up until now.
Yeah, 100%. The record was, I believe, self-recorded and self-produced by you guys as well. Do you think that kind of helped with that? I guess being able to experiment and being able to kind of, put ideas out there and see what does work instead of possibly in a different environment, maybe not having that time or space to experiment.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if it's necessarily helped in terms of like removing restrictions or anything, but I think like leading up to the recording, just in the writing process for John, I think he never looks at things in a way that's like, okay, we need to take this next step and this is what we have to do for people to enjoy it. He just kind of follows his gut and what he enjoys listening to and what he wants to make. And we kind of just then fit our version of that into what he's made. And I think it's interesting because, then when it comes to the vocals and the music, I think there's kind of this interesting clash of like, I don't know, negative energy, but then also this kind of upbeat thing that's going on. I think it's a really interesting mesh of sound and vocal content.
I would agree with that. Yeah. As I mentioned, you guys did record and produce the record yourself. I think that you had previously, please correct me if I'm wrong, you had previously done almost the same with Alien, but Did you produce and record that one, or was that one produced just by yourselves and recorded by someone else?
So it was produced, I guess, like John kind of recorded his bits, like a few bits of the electronic stuff for Alien, I guess, but then guitars were done with Chris Blancardo, and then he's come on board with this process as well. But John has taken a bit more of a driver's seat position for recording like the bulk of guitar and synth parts for this one. Chris Blancardo was more just kind of arranging it and making sure it was all ready to go for mix, and then if there was anything that we needed help with, then he would kind of step in and take over for a little bit. And then vocal-wise, for Alien, we did that with Dave from Electric Sun in Sydney, but this time around I wanted to do the vocal stuff myself, just as like I've kind of been recording my own vocal stuff for like my own music and stuff outside of Northlane for a long time, and I just know how I want stuff to sound, and I think for this album I just kind of wanted to take the reins on that and make sure that, you know, just even if it's like something like a reverb or something, I just know if something's not quite sitting how I want it to sit. So for me, I just wanted to kind of have a little bit of a handle over that. But then we had Nolly and Erman back to do mixing and mastering as well, which they did that on Alien as well.
With you recording your own vocals, how did you find that experience? Obviously, as you just said, you've got the ability to kind of, if you know there's a reverb or whatever else you want to add to it, imagine that's like, it's good to have that control and get exactly what you want. But I imagine that it might also present its own plethora of problems or obstacles to face, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot more pressure I think I put on myself than I thought I maybe needed. I think going through that process was like already quite difficult, trying to find inspiration for like writing new vocals or writing lyrics and being confident in my decisions I was making, I guess, for these songs. I was kind of struggling with that. So then also having to make sure that I had all these vocal tracks done well. And that was definitely something that I didn't anticipate. But that being said, the benefits I think kind of outweighed that negative aspect of it, just because I don't know, even when you're in the studio and you're like recording something and maybe the producer says, oh, you know, record that another 10 times or something. Maybe we haven't got the take yet. But then somewhere in your head, you know, like you already had the take 3 or take 2. Not wasting time kind of doing these things that you don't necessarily need to. And I think that's just also come from experience in the studio, knowing what works for me and what works in terms of my, I guess, sustainability in the studio. I kind of wanted to take the reins on that a little bit. So I'm kind of, it was a bit of a struggle, but I'm glad I did it.
It's very cool. I think that the more that you can, even if it's not done every album, the ability to learn these new skills and build upon your own knowledge is always a good thing. So I think it should be commended. So good job.
Yeah. Thank you.
I know just then, like touching on the lyrics of a number of these songs, if you're okay to talk about it, fantastic. And if not, please let me know and we'll move on. I know previously on Alien that the subject matter of that record was very personal to yourself and kind of ended up with you receiving some backlash from people close to you in terms of, I guess, maybe drawing the curtain too far back or whatever it may be. And that's not what we're going to ask. That are all private details. I'm just curious, with this new record, after having that backlash, how do you then reapproach songwriting to a point where you're comfortable and you're still able to say that, like, you feel that you're expressing your truth, or however you want to word it, but also kind of, I guess, working out that line of where you don't want to get yourself in trouble either?
Yeah, that was definitely something I was feeling after Alien, was just a bit of guilt, which was maybe misplaced, I guess, considering I was just talking about, my experiences, but it did leave an impression on me. And as I was saying before, I was having a bit of a struggle in terms of inspiration during the writing process, and that definitely came from feeling like where do I go from here? And feeling also just like this kind of guilt of not being able to be that person to, I don't know, have people relate to that story anymore, because I know it did kind of impact a lot of people, and I did get a lot of messages and stuff that I had to stop kind of looking at, because it was becoming a bit too much. I mean, at some point during the Alien album cycle, my mum passed away, so to be talking about these stories with people and trying to find any positivity in that was really hard. So going forward, I was just like, okay, what do I talk about? And I guess out of that came just a lot of songs and a lot of thoughts and lyrics about like self-doubt and just a lot of pessimistic stuff, really, just being negative on myself and my mindset of being able to do what I want to do in the best way. I was just struggling a lot to find inspiration, and that's kind of what a lot of this album is just kind of that negativity, and also seeing the negativity in the world and trying to find something positive in there, but never really finding that. It was an interesting process, and I'm still not quite sure how to feel about it now that it's done. Yeah.
Look, that's very fair. I guess with releasing, and I imagine it might still be cathartic for yourself, even in terms of if you aren't able to find something that does kind of resolve that doubt that you're having, that you're able to still, put that emotion out into the world. For the singles that have been released so far, what's the reaction kind of been like? And have you found that, I guess, even if there hasn't been any resolution for yourself, that it might have helped other people or fans in what they were feeling?
Absolutely. I think that's something that once the album comes out will kind of shine a bit more of a light on everything, and let me see a bit more of the positive of it. That, I can kind of see that, everyone has gone through a lot of the same feelings, and maybe not directly based on what I've gone through or on my career or anything. It's based on their own personal lives and how the last couple of years have impacted that. I know people will be able to relate to a lot of it. And that's what we've seen with, songs like Plenty and Clockwork as well. Like, they're songs that are very doubtful and negative. But then even with these other songs that are kind of touching on more serious-ish stuff with Echo Chamber, and then serious stuff with Carbonized. It's just interesting to see people feeling the same way. And I think as people kind of hear the rest of this album and kind of connect with that, I'm sure that maybe, I think that'll kind of help me kind of connect the dots a bit better with my feelings towards a more positive side of it.
Yeah, definitely. You just mentioned Carbonized, which has just been released as a single, and I believe kind of the subject matter is kind of calling out, I guess, predatory artists within, I don't want to just say music because they seem to be everywhere, and that would be unfair to just musicians. But it seems to be, and I guess, calling out those kind of figures and addressing the conversation that's been going on for maybe like the last 4-5 years, and in the whole, like, how do you or should you separate the artist from the art and all that kind of stuff. Firstly, I feel like you've done an excellent job of kind of calling that out and shining a light on that in this track. I'm curious where it was stemmed from, or I guess why you felt that now is the time to release this song and kind of call these people out.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be.
At BlueNile.com, you can find endless ways to make your moments sparkle. From classic and timeless jewelry gifts to creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams. All at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. And right now, you can save up to 40% on fine jewelry and 25% on engagement ring settings during the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale, going on now. Go to BlueNile.com to shop the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale and save up to 40%. That's BlueNile.com.
Yeah, well, it kind of felt like, over the last few years, like maybe once or every 1 or 2 months, like you would just hear something awful from someone in, a band that's been around for the last 10 years, some band that you might have been a huge fan of. And for me, I found there was a bunch of bands that were like huge inspirations for me on my like musical taste and just the direction of like the kind of music I enjoy and wanted to write. Like I was just hearing more and more awful things and being like, like how can I listen to this stuff and still be kind of stoked on it if like at the other end of it, someone has like had to suffer or had to go through something really awful because of this person in a position of power. And I feel like now that I'm somewhat in that similar position, like I would just feel so awful to like, I don't know, if someone was to look up to me and then I was to do something like that, I would just feel like that would be such a disappointing thing. And it's just like not a thing that I want to be glorified in any way, and I don't want people to ever think that, I don't know, that there is a way. I don't know. I've just found it really hard to separate the art from the artist lately, just because it does seem often that it comes out of, something bad happening, and then people hear this new song and like, oh, that's so sick though. So like, I'm just going to keep listening to them and let's just, I'm just never going to mention the thing they did because I don't want to have an awkward conversation, but I'll always just back this song. And I think it's just like really dangerous to get in that kind of mindset of just turning a blind eye to that stuff and letting people keep pushing that limit and keep trying to push, what they think they can do. I don't know. It's just there's definitely a number of specific individuals, but I don't really want to go into it and start a bloody anything like that. But like, I think people know exactly who I'm talking about and know the kind of people I'm talking about and the kind of people who have just kind of tried to slink their way back in and pretend like nothing ever happened. And a lot of people try to allow that. So I don't know. Yeah, it's just gross to me.
Yes, agreed. And we won't make you read out a laundry list of all the bands and artists.
Pull it out of my drawer. Yeah.
It's interesting to see the, I guess, cherry picking of information that people will do to allow them to still enjoy something that, even though, because at the end of the day, it still seems to be, if you cherry pick and ignore parts of it, it's not celebrating or rewarding bad behavior, but you're not really doing anything on the other end of it either. But That's the yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also, just quickly, I think it's also like a song that's not necessarily, it's kind of directed at both those people kind of doing this awful stuff, but then also, fans of music or fans who, just to not, just have a think about it. Like, don't just quickly turn around and be like, okay, that breakdown's heavy, so let's just make sure their tours sell out all the time.
Yeah. The other song I wanted to talk about was Echo Chamber, which was the first single for this record, which I feel was still very Northlane, but was incredibly, I don't want to say pop, it's not pop, but I feel like it was quite catchy. Like the melody was the most melodic. I don't know how to word it without saying it. But I'm curious, why this track stood out to you guys to be the first single this time around.
I think just at the point we were at, when we were getting ready to announce Obsidian, I guess the world had kind of settled down a little bit from all the stress of COVID and stuff, but I mean, with the video itself, we wanted to take a bit of take the piss out of just the internet, I guess, and that's kind of where the song stems from, is just the idea of, I don't know, people just living in this echo chamber on social media, of, just negativity, really, just people kind of getting caught up in, whether it's like pop culture stuff, like celebrity stuff, people in other bands or whatever. It's like getting angry about stuff that doesn't matter, but then having this like echo chamber people just patting each other on the back, being like, yeah, that's so funny. Yes, hilarious. For me, I was just like going like through the last couple of years, I was just on social media and like logging on and just seeing like some argument about bloody, I don't know, something dumb. And just being like, why are people putting so much energy into this negativity? And like, it's really like, it feels like a competition of like whose opinion is the best and who can say like the funniest thing on this issue that's happening right now, whether it's serious or not. And it just kind of got really exhausting for me. And that's just kind of where that song stemmed from. And I think that's just, I guess, part in relation to the rest of the album. And the album is kind of a picture of being exhausted by the last couple of years, I guess. So it is kind of a starting point of where the album's going, and I guess where the sounds of the album were going as well, in terms of having those dancier elements and stuff. It just seemed like a good teaser for everything, but letting people know there's still some riffs to be had.
Of course. You just mentioned obviously the last 2 years, and I'm not going to go into the specifics of that, because I know everyone and every musician has been speaking about the dreaded. I don't want to say the C word, because that you know what I'm referring to. But it is exciting because after the last 2 years, you guys are going on tour. I believe not next month, June, in Australia, and then I think you've got the US after that. How excited are you to kind of get back out there and get in front of people?
Incredibly excited. I mean, we just had our first taste of that a couple of weeks ago with Full Tilt in Melbourne. We also played a little pub show, a woolshed show at Albury. That's a tongue twister. And just getting back on stage and having people kind of release that energy of being at a show again was just so amazing. I'm just kind of fiending for it again. We've got Full Tilt Brisbane coming up as well in a couple of days, actually. So, I mean, just being back in that atmosphere is so awesome, and I think people are really excited to be out and about again and out with their friends enjoying live music. And like even before Full Tilt, I went to a Polaris show at Reunion Park in Melbourne, which was like this big circus tent situation, and just being there and being amongst people who, like I said, just so stoked, and really letting 2 years of frustration and energy out. It's really exciting, and it's exciting to be getting back into that.
Of course, I think there's a lot of people excited to see gigs back, but to see you guys back. And I know even in preparation for today, speaking to a few friends, when I mentioned that it was yourself who I was chatting to, they were very excited about or just expressed their excitement in the new Northlane album and tour. So, Marcus, lastly, we would usually ask our guests what they're currently listening to. If there's anything that is on your streaming service or on your record player, respectively, whatever it may be, anything that's getting a good spin at the moment.
I feel like I've not listened to much new music as of late, but in terms of just what I've been listening to, a lot of actually 4 Year Strong's newest album, Brain Pain. That album's sick. And I've just been listening to a lot of Reliant K. Actually, they're like a Christian rock band that I kind of grew up listening to, but have come back around to. I don't know. I've just been vibing the old kind of nostalgic pop punk stuff as of late. So I've just been kind of getting deep into that.
I feel that there's a lot of, if you don't mind me asking, Marcus, how old would you be? I think we might be similar ages.
Yeah, I'm 30 this year, yeah.
Okay. I'm a few years older, only a little bit, but similar time frames. I feel like that people who are into or were into like pop punk or punk back in the day and seeing the kind of resurgence of it come around, what is your opinion on the most recent kind of pop punk resurgence, and I guess both the authentic of it and then maybe the more Machine Gun Kelly and Willow Smith version of it?
To be honest, like, I'm into it. I mean, I kind of feel like, and that kind of relates back to Echo Chamber, to be honest. But I feel like just everyone being up in arms about this is kind of interesting. As much like you can like or hate those kind of modern artists as much as you like, but I feel like them pissing off all of the hardcore punk dudes is kind of the most punk thing you can do. Like, I don't know. I've honestly thought that was the most interesting part, is people getting so up in arms on the internet about it as opposed to like writing a song about it, which I think is like the main part of being in a, you know, like a punk or a hardcore band, is kind of, you know, let out how you feel by like screaming about it. But that being said, yeah, I mean, some of it I don't necessarily understand. Like, I don't know, like Olivia Rodrigo, I don't listen to it, but I just think it's a different era. Like, I'm sure like people who were our age when we were, you know, 13, 14 growing up listening to, you know, maybe Paramore or Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco didn't make sense to them either. So I'm sure it's just like, I mean, I think it's awesome that there's some form of rock music or whatever in like the mainstream for people to kind of then hopefully gateway themselves into something that isn't as at the forefront. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of cool that they're just doing what they want. I would agree with that. I've never framed it in that way, in terms of what you said, that them pissing the punks off is actually the most punk thing, and I think that's actually fantastic. Yeah. It's really interesting. It is. Marcus, thank you very much for your time today. I do appreciate you coming onto the podcast, and congratulations again on Obsidian, which is out this Friday. Thanks, Simon. My pleasure. And that's our show. A massive thank you to Marcus Bridge and Northlane for their time. Obsidian is out this Friday, and we've left links in the show notes if you'd like to buy the record or see them on tour. We also want to give a huge shout out to Amy at Deathproof PR for helping out with today's interview. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Wednesday and Friday morning, and we now have a Patreon, which you can find within the show notes of this episode.
You can follow the playlist profile on Spotify, and you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until next week, cheers.
$1-800-Flowers.com is more than your birthday, anniversary, or just because gift-giving destination. We put our hearts into everything we do to help you celebrate all life's special occasions with friends and family. From our farmers and bakers, florists and makers, everything from 1-800-Flowers is made with love every step of the way, because we know that nothing is more important than delivering a smile. To learn more, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST.